eBayers. Welcome to another episode of eBay the Right Way. Today's guest is Tina in Tennessee. This is episode number 112, and today's date is May 10th, 2023. Just one quick announcement, and this is a correction. Please excuse my ignorance about this. Last week, the trivia question was about Vaseline glass and uranium glass, and the only way to verify it is with a black light. Well, thanks to Brett and Christy on the Facebook group, they informed me that there is a black light flashlight you can carry with you. You can get one on Amazon for less than $10. And I think I knew this, but I just forgot because I don't really do glassware. But glassware people will definitely know about this already, but non-glassware people might not. So thank you for that information, Brett and Christy, and I stand corrected. Okay, and now for the conversation with Tina.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another fun reselling podcast. And today, after a couple of tries, we have Tina with us. It was a mix-up with the time. We're in different time zones. And anyway, so here we are making it work. So how are you doing this morning, Tina?
I am great, and I hope you are too.
Yes, it's not a pretty day here, but that means it's a good day to go to Goodwill because it won't be as crowded because people are staying home.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's beautiful here today. I think we're expecting some rain tomorrow, but it's chilly and sunny, so that's the way I like it.
And where are you located?
I am about 30 minutes west of Nashville in Tennessee.
Okay. All right. I lived in that state.
So I heard.
Is there still no sales tax in Tennessee?
Oh, no, there's sales. Yeah, there's sales tax in Tennessee. Now, Goodwill, they don't do sales tax on, I think, clothing, but they do on hard goods, I've noticed. So, but yeah, there's no income tax. State income tax.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. When I lived there was no income tax. I think Florida's like that, maybe a couple other states now. So,
and that is why we've had such an influx.
And they make up for that on the sales tax because it's a little bit higher, isn't it?
I think it's 9 1/4 or 9. Yeah, I think it's 9 1/4, 9 3/4.
Okay, yeah. So you pay when you buy stuff. So if you buy an expensive boat, you're going to pay a lot of sales tax, but there's no income tax, state income tax. So
correct.
That's one thing I loved about living there. And then, of course, moved to Atlanta, and it's 6% there. And then in Greenville, South Carolina, there's no sales tax on thrift store purchases, I guess, because it's a charitable organization. And it's really low on groceries. Only a few things are taxed. So, all those little things add up.
Yeah. Well, don't let that get out, or everybody that moved here will be moving your direction. The traffic in Nashville has almost gotten to the Atlanta version.
They're already coming here. Greenville's one of the fastest growing cities and very attractive for retirement. I just don't think it'll ever get as big as Atlanta. Yes, it has grown in the past few years, but just the infrastructure, there's 1/10 of the people that Atlanta has in Greenville. So,
and Nashville has 3 interstates that run through it. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of traffic just going from one place to another through the state. not to mention, people that are commuting to work. And where I live is actually considered a close commute as compared to other people that are having to move further out for it to be affordable to live there, because the cost of living and housing has gotten just outrageous here.
Yeah, everybody's reevaluating where they live and do they want to stay there. And but Nashville's kind of I guess a secondary destination when you go through there, like traveling. People plan to stay in Nashville or stay a day or two and see the things there. And so it's a pretty busy city.
Yeah, well, somewhere down the line, we have gotten a reputation for bridal parties, for
like the bridesmaids bachelorette parties, what I'm trying to think of. Right.
That's it. Yeah. And they call them the woohoos because they've got these trailers that are open air and they can drink on them, and they drive down Broadway and around the honky tonks and stuff, and they're woo. So,
and is it like you pedal? Everybody works to pedal.
They've got those too. Yeah,
I've seen those.
There's some that are pulled by a tractor. I mean, it's crazy.
I don't know what you call that contraption where it's like 15 people are on it, and there's a bar in the middle, and then everybody's pedaling to make it move. So I don't know what the name of that is, but yeah, it's
like a pet. I think it's that they call them like a pedal cart or something.
Okay.
Yeah, if I want to go and be entertained like that, I don't want to work that hard.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
pedaling and drinking at the same time.
Unless you're getting your
that
workout
is not going to end well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Who's driving? Who's steering? Right.
Right. It's going to end up being, 20% of the riders are doing 100% of the work because the rest of them are not going to be able to pedal.
That's in life in general. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. So yeah, I've observed that on people's Facebook. Like they went there for a girls' weekend or a bachelorette party, and it's like they're on, going down the main roads within the town, obviously not on the highway,
right.
But like, okay, yeah, I can see how that would end.
But
anyway,
some friends and I went downtown in February and stayed overnight to celebrate a birthday. And I haven't been downtown in a long time, and it's unrecognizable from what it was because it's just grown so much. So I try to avoid downtown at all costs.
Yeah, that was me in Atlanta. It just got to be too much and too busy. And in fact, I have a friend that works downtown, and I don't know if you've been through Atlanta recently, but they've created these express lanes through some of the busier parts of 75 and 85. And they're not even express anymore. She used those for her commute, and it shaved off about 15 minutes. And now it's faster just to go on the regular road and not use the express, which you have to pay for.
Oh, wow.
Because it's faster on the regular road. So, it worked for a little while, but yeah, that's just the big city. So anyway, on to the eBay discussion.
Right.
What brought you to eBay? When did you start and why?
I think I started about 2016, 2017, somewhere in that area. And we were cash flowing our daughter's college so she wouldn't have any student loans when she graduated. So I needed something to kind of supplement our income, or I wanted to help supplement our income because my husband had taken a pay cut at his job. He'd been there a long time and wanted to stay there. And so he accepted a pay cut. So I was trying to make up the difference. And I was already working from home as a virtual assistant to a property appraiser. So I schedule her appointments and keep up with her schedule. And I still do that. I enjoy doing that. But I needed something else. So I have a friend from high school that her husband had been selling on eBay for a while. And he actually just retired to do eBay full time. So we call him Coach Steve because he was just very good encourager. And so we met up, and another friend of mine from high school, we all met up one evening, and he helped us set up our stores. And I went to yard sales with them a few times. And he and his wife, that's my friend, we are the looky looks. We take our time and want to look and touch everything. He goes in and he makes a round. He knows what he's looking for. If it's not there, he's moving on. So he knows how to do it. But so I'm not near that level of shopping. But he got me started. And we had another friend who collected a lot of World War II items. And he was trying to downsize. He already had some things in a antique mall. He had a booth in an antique mall, but he had a lot of smalls, and he just wanted to just kind of liquidate it. So he asked me to help him sell it on eBay. And I think that was a really good experience starting out because he had a lot of interesting, very small things. So they were easy to store, and it was easy to research, and they were desirable. So when I would list those things, it boosted my store. I got good feedback on it. They were easy to ship. And every month I would give him an invoice. We agreed to do a 50-50 split. And he also paid for the fees. So the fees came out of his part. So that was good. And he was very understanding that, some things are not as valuable as he thought they would be, but then there were other things that brought more than he expected. So that worked out great. And so I did that probably for a good year and a half or so until I sold through his stuff. And then I acquired, a lot more along the way. And unfortunately he passed away, but by that time we had already gone through most of the stuff that I could sell for him. But that was very good. And he was very generous to take the split and, let us work that way.
Great. Okay. And then what made you decide to just do it on your own?
Oh, I enjoyed it. I liked the research. I really liked looking up the historical stuff. Like he had pencil sharpeners that were made out of Bakelite that were, they're little kid ones that were shaped like an airplane or a Jeep, something that was war related. He had a lot of buttons and pins of that nature. But I've always liked thrifting anyway, but when you see things and go, oh, I can't use that, but oh, it's so good. I wish I knew somebody that could use that. Well, now I don't have to know who's going to use it, but I know somebody's looking for it. So I have to kind of pull myself back now. I'm trying not to buy anything unless it is like a sure thing, because I've got quite the backlog, and I would really advise anybody start in your house. Your stuff is worth as much as anybody else's, that they're selling to. So
Right.
I aspire to get to the point to where I don't have much of a backlog to work on.
And that epiphany you had about, oh, this is a nice item. It's, I don't need it, but somebody else might or will. That's exactly what got me started. because I was in a Goodwill store. I had divorced and lost my job in the same month. It was like one of the worst times of my life. And I was, interviewing to find another job, and went to Goodwill to find the right clothing to wear to an interview. And
Right.
that epiphany hit me. I found this Banana Republic skirt with a $98 tag on it. And it was like a size 2, which I don't think I've ever been a size 2 in my life. So I thought, oh, this is wonderful. I can't wear this, but maybe somebody I know can wear it. And it was $4. And then the thought dropped in my head, you don't have to know anybody, just sell it on eBay. And I just stood there for a minute and thought, did anybody else hear that? I spent like 2 hours in the store buying stuff, put it on my credit card, and didn't even go to the job interview, and just started my home business because I thought, this is the most brilliant idea ever. Like, duh, other people have this idea too, but I had never thought of matching up Goodwill with eBay. And it just came together in my head like that. And I'm like, oh, right, I could do this on purpose. And yeah, so I just wonder how many other resellers had that epiphany. Like, you didn't know ahead of time to go do that. It wasn't a thing back when I started in 2003. It was, people were just selling more like collectibles and, the Pez dispensers and all that kind of stuff. And there wasn't a whole lot of everyday items like clothing. And so anyway, I love to hear that other sellers had that revelation, like, oh, right. Yeah, I could do this on purpose.
Yeah. And I don't know if I would have been that adventurous and confident to jump out and just do that wholeheartedly. What I was started in was a supplemental type income, and had a little bit of a safety net because I had something I was doing also on the side. But it's been a blessing. It's been interesting, and I enjoy it. So if I can get through the backlog and get through some stuff, I will enjoy it even more and be more pleased with myself.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And really that revelation just came at a time that was perfect, because I didn't have a job at the time, and I knew I needed one. And I had already been through my house selling stuff. I was in that process, going through the kids stuff. What are you not using anymore? And going through the kitchen, and, I have 2 of everything. I don't need all these things. And so I was already on track with that, selling my own stuff. And it just didn't occur to me to go out into the world and find more of the types of items I was already selling. So once I had that thought, it changed my life, because, I was in this situation where I needed money, needed income. And then this popped up, and it's just one of those times where chaos can present opportunities if you look at it the right way. So anyway,
Right.
I have to ask you, how many items are in your backlog? Do you have any idea?
A lot.
So do I need to make a road trip and come shopping at your house? And
Well, yes, I think so. It's kind of like I have two or three friends from high school, and my girlfriends, our birthdays are all the same week. And so to celebrate our birthday, we'll go to the Goodwill bins, and then we'll go to lunch. So, we have a blast doing that. And one of my friends, she had a little booth at an antique store at one time, and then decided to just do eBay. So she's got a little bit of a backlog in her basement, and she calls pulling something out of the basement and selling it as shopping local. So she is, I need to shop local a lot more and I'm trying to get through that. I've got it kind of organized, and it's like, okay, if I go through a bin, but when you have empty nests and then it creeps into their room and the office is in another room, and shipping materials are on the shelves in the basement, it's time for intervention.
Yeah, well, I mean, having that backlog can be good. If you get stuck at home and have bad weather and, you've got things to work on. How many items are in your store?
I think I have about 380. It has gotten up to 500, which I think is about as much as I would want to manage, and trying to get it back up to that point. I sold through a lot over the holidays and had a lot of things going on, so I didn't list as much, and so the sales have kind of fallen off a little bit, but I'm trying to get back into that mode. So the challenge is, now that it's yard sale season, is to be so very selective in if I stop, not to just get something for the sake of finding something. I have to really know that it's a winner before I will bring it home now.
Yeah, and we all work on that. Sometimes you can't leave that item behind if it's 50 cents and you can sell it for $20, and because you've sold it before, or you've sold something like that before, and you just know that, oh, this is a quick seller. I love those sales that you list it and it sells within 24 hours. It doesn't even matter the price. It's a fast seller, and we all want that. Nobody wants stuff hanging around for 3 years.
Right. And that's part of my challenge too. Yeah. I need to go through and cull some things, but then you have something you've had for 2 years that sells, and you go, okay, well, maybe something else will sell. But I did try the promoted items. That was a really good, helpful tip that I had, listened to in the premium library. And so I did promoted items, and I did sell through quite a bit of things that way. But somehow or another, it got kind of skewed. The settings that I set kind of got off or whatever. So I've shut it all down, and I'm in the process of, if I get to the end of the month, and just kind of starting that back over. And I was doing I think the maximum that you could do, maybe plus a % of whatever the top.
The trending percentage, and then you can add to that if you want.
Right. And I think I'm going to back off of that a little bit and just see how that goes. But I think the promoted listings, that's almost going to be the way to have to go, especially if you're in a section that has a lot of competition.
Right. Yeah. I think the promoted listings is really all just trial and error. And it is getting more competitive because more people are doing it, because they're seeing that things do sell. There's no way to know if they would have sold anyway. There's just no way to measure that. So I kind of did it very aggressively for a while and did trending, at least the trending percentage, but sometimes those trending percentages are 15%. And I
know, and that's what
I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah. But if you look at your statement, and this is for the listeners, you can see how much your promoted listings were for the month. And, I'm okay with it as an expense, because I feel like, well, I still walked away with money. I don't promote everything, but like you said, in those more competitive categories, like we're recording this in late April, and, we're getting into swimwear season. So those percentages have really gone up. And because of the seasonality, but I still sell plenty of things without promoted listings. So it's just something you kind of have to play with, I think.
Right. And I think part of mine being dropped off is that I hadn't been listing as much. And so I'm trying to pick that up. And so in that, my sales are picking up just a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think once I get back to promoted listings, that'll pick up a little bit more.
Well, and I feel like if it is an item that's truly limited in number and rare, you don't need that. It's going to be found without promoted listings because, there may only be 5 of them on eBay and you've got one of them. And at some point,
Right.
yours is going to sell. It's definitely patience, but it's just every seller has a different philosophy on that. Some people do a strict percentage across the board on all their listings, and then some do it by category. Some don't use it at all. So I don't think there is a right or wrong. It's just what are you okay with? Look at your statement. Are you okay spending that money for extra advertising, which is what it is? So I don't know what the answer is on that other than just figure out what works for you.
Right. And I figure if it's already listed and most of the work is done and you can still make money on it, and you're going to make less because you're going to pay in that fee, but you're going to get more than if you had to put it out on a yard sale, or definitely if you pull it and redonate it. So, why not try it?
Yeah. And I know we pay eBay enough in fees already, but if I have no idea what the percentage is, let's just say 50% of sellers use promoted, you're competing against those people to get eyeballs on your listing. I mean, that's really what it does. It puts it in front of people's, and there's
but you're ahead of the other 50% that are not.
Right. There's that. So I wish we could know those percentages of, how many sellers actually use promoted listings. I have no idea. And I don't think eBay wants us to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on, let's talk about some things you've sold, because you are a frequent poster on the Facebook group with all kinds of sales.
Right. And I really appreciate that group because I learned so much from that. And I don't get to look at the Facebook postings as much. So I appreciate that you do a video that plucks some of those out. So because I do listen to and watch the videos, but my husband's items have really been a lot of what I have sold probably in the past 6 months or so. And that started out with, we were watching Antique Roadshow one day and there was this kid, and this was early on, there was this kid that had his dad's Hogan's Heroes lunchbox, and they're talking about, the lunchbox, and my husband walks through and goes, "Hey, I've got one of those." And I was like, "Really? Well, where is it?" And he said, "Oh, I think it's in the garage at Mom's house." And so at the end, they say, his lunchbox is worth like $600. And I just looked at him and thought, okay, I guess we're going to go get that out of the garage. And we do. And it's not in near as good a shape as the $600 one. But I think I still sold it for like $175. And it didn't even have, it had the thermos, but it didn't have the little cup, lid on top of the thermos. And he was like, I always like to get this reaction. "You sold that for what?" Because it just blows his mind that it's junk. One of the things we brought home from the attic was a trash can that was in his childhood room, and she was catching water in it from a leak in the roof, and it was some kind of a automotive additive or something, and really brightly colored. And I think I sold that for like $150 pretty quick. I mean, a trash can. So this stuff blows my mind. But
and God bless his mother for saving all this stuff. Some of us,
and that was the thing.
Yeah, some of us had mothers that just got rid of stuff especially if there was a whole bunch of kids.
Yeah.
There was 4 in my family. So, things got worn out by the time they got to the youngest one. And
well, and I have saved a lot of stuff about our daughters. And now she's expecting our first grandchild.
oh,
So
congratulations.
I'm trying to pass a lot of that on to her. So, but his mother kind of called all the kids, he has 4 in his family, and said, hey, come get your stuff. And because if you don't get it and it's going to the dump or, donated or whatever. So with that, we ended up with the trash can and a box of Hot Wheels and Mad magazines. And so what I was going to say was I appreciated the podcast with I think her name's Tina too.
Yes, I was just thinking of Tina, the Hot Wheels lady. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so after listening to her podcast, and I had looked up a couple of these Hot Wheels, and I was like, oh, well, they're not worth anything, but they were still in a box downstairs. And she was talking about Redline Hot Wheels, but I don't think at the time they really got into the explanation of what it was. I had to see what it was. So I Googled it, and it has like little red rims on the tires. And I asked Russell, do you think any of your Hot Wheels are Redlines? I don't know. So I go get them. Sure enough, probably at least half or more were all Redline Hot Wheels. But they were pretty well loved because he had played with them. His brother had, played with them. So, but there was one that was good enough that I set it up on like a piece of acrylic, so it looks like it's on the showroom floor in the picture. And it sold for, I think, $175 or $171. I mean, it was like $170 something
for one car.
Just blew me away. Yes, it looked like some little wagon something. And then the other ones, I took their advice about the junk lots. So I would lot them up, and I think those sold for like 160 or something. Yeah. So my husband really is thrilled that, his stuff is worth more than my stuff.
For now.
Yeah. I'm about to get through, go through all of his stuff. And like locally, as he was going through the boxes, there was a map of Opryland, that used to be in Nashville, and they, built a mall or something on top of it. Anyway, this map was in really pretty good condition, had folds and creases and stuff. And before he started throwing it away, I was like, no, let me see if I can do something with that. So I look it up. Well, they're selling for $100. And so I listed it, and it sold for $99 to someone locally whose kids had worked at Opryland. And so she was getting them all a map and framing it for Christmas.
Oh, what a fun gift.
Yeah. So you just never know what people are going to do with, stuff like that.
I mean, there's memories attached to all kinds of items, and you just don't know what really one person's trash is another one's treasure. Back to your Hot Wheels comment about they were well loved. My son had a whole bunch of Hot Wheels. He would sit out in the yard with his friends, and they'd build these little tracks and, with the dirt and all this kind of stuff. And so years go by, he was little, 4 or 5, something like that. And years go by, and I'm out in the yard planting flowers in the space where he had done that. And I'm digging up the dirt, and here's all these buried Hot Wheels cars. Matchbox cars. I'm like, they were in terrible condition. And I'm like, Mitchell, did you know that all these cars were buried? And he's like, oh, no, I wondered where they went. So it's like an archaeological dig in my own yard. I'm thinking, okay, what else is buried out here? I mean, they weren't worth anything. He was just glad to see him again. But you got to think, like, you know, there could be anything buried in your yard if you have little kids playing out there.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I used to go. My mom and another family would go shopping, and it was in this material store. So we would be bored out of our mind. But they had these big vats of buttons, and me and my friend would take our Barbie dolls and we would bury them down in those buttons, and then we would go play in this big mound of material. And before we left, we'd dig our Barbies out of the buttons and go along our way.
Oh, that sounds.
So there must be something. Yeah, there must be something about little kids wanting to bury their stuff.
Well, now I'm thinking a vat of buttons, because buttons can be valuable to sell depending on, if they're made of Bakelite, or if they're from, a St. John outfit where maybe the outfit is no good, stained or has holes, but you can cut the buttons off. And I'm thinking, people have jars of buttons around their house.
And I do. I have a couple, of jars of buttons that my grandmother saved. And so, they're down in the basement somewhere, but I haven't looked through those. And actually, that reminds me, I had a Brooks Brothers shirt that it had holes or something in it, and I ended up cutting the buttons off of it. I haven't listed them yet, but I have them, somewhere in the back.
Well, I've got a St. John jacket listed right now, and it's cream colored, and there's just a couple of little tiny defects. It's not anything major. It's not holes. It's just it's an older item, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it out there by itself in as is condition, see what happens, and if it doesn't sell, then I'll cut the buttons off and sell those. But I remember when I first learned about that, it was for Ralph Lauren blazers, the crested blazers, like from, I don't know, the 90s and before. And then they had those buttons with the Polo logo on them, like they're what do you call that? Embossed or whatever, And I saw people selling those. I'm like, why would somebody want that? Oh, they go buy just a plain navy blue blazer from Target or wherever, and then they put that crested logo on it and the buttons and even the label that says Ralph Lauren, and they just it's like a cheap blazer impersonating the real thing. Yeah, people will just buy that to make it look like the real thing, and there's just no limit to anything you can sell.
Nope. It amazes me all the time. And even with the podcast that you did with Lewis about the Barbies, I had a bunch of Barbies that I had come across that had the clothes. And so hearing the tip about, having the tag in the clothes, some of these clothes did. And they were not in great shape. I would say they were a junkyard lot. The Barbies had, a mark on them, or just they weren't in great shape. And I really even couldn't decide if I wanted to sell them or fool with them or not. But after listening to his podcast, I was like, well, why not? So I threw them up on eBay, and they sold. I think they sold for like $75. And they went to Australia, of all places.
And this was just a lot of Barbie clothes.
Clothes, and there was like 2 or 3 dolls. I mean, one of the dolls wasn't a Barbie. I don't know what it was, but her leg was broke. It was jointed. It had a little screw or something supposed to hold her at her knee, and it was off. But I had a leg, so it was all there. So I still don't know what he may have bought it just for whatever that was. I don't know, but
so maybe you should call her like car accident Barbie, or tired gymnast Barbie, or
knee replacement Barbie.
Yeah, knee replacement Barbie for those baby boomers who are getting them.
Because she needed one.
Oh, I did something like that recently. I made something funny. I found this puppet. It was a fox, and you could tell it was really old. And but it was in great condition. I'm like, that's cute, but it had an eye missing. And so I put it on the title of the listing. It's something like the fabulous one-eyed fox puppet, just all this kind of stuff. Like, you could put another eye on him, or he can just go as is, because you know what? Nobody's perfect. We could call him
right.
Cyclops, the Cyclops fox, or, any kind of name. I just made it funny because I feel like he's going to sell anyway. Who knows?
Yeah.
He may be used at a puppet show in a hospital or something that, and they could be like, oh,
Yeah.
Things happen to everybody. Even this puppet has an issue, but whatever. So things don't have to be perfect. Just throw them out there and see what happens. I mean,
that's right.
A one-legged Barbie, if they want that particular one, is better than no Barbie at all. If they're looking for that particular doll.
And I think when I had listed those, it had maybe 5 or 6 pair of Barbie shoes were in with that too. And that was before maybe you had him on maybe a second time, and somewhere about he had like, don't throw away the mismatched shoes because those are valuable too. Well, I had just tossed those because I went through this bag that I had. Yeah. And so I was like, doggone it. I forgot, I didn't hear that. So, but
Always
I'll know it next time.
Day late and $1 short on stuff like that. Yep. I mean, I hear that all the time. I wish I had known that 2 weeks ago before I threw all this stuff out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you're referring to Lewis's second podcast where he focused on everything Barbie.
Right. I enjoyed that, especially when growing up with playing with Barbies. And I'm sure, I think my Barbies are still at my mom's house. I haven't dug those out yet, but I probably need to check and see. But they've gone through a couple generations of people playing with them, so there's no telling what's left or not there now. But now I know it doesn't matter what shape they're in; somebody will still take them.
So, can I ask you what year you were born?
63.
Okay. So you're kind of the tail end of the baby boomers.
I think I am the last year or so of baby boomers. Yeah.
Okay, because I was born in 1966, and I'm right at the beginning of Gen X. So
yeah,
I feel like I have traits of both generations, but
yeah.
I mean,
I'm definitely I think the baby boomer type, but my husband is always on the lookout on his way to work for if there's a yard sale close by. He'll let me know, hey, I saw this on the way. And I have a funny story about he told me about this estate sale, and I had a friend that was coming over, and so we both went to the estate sale, and we looked for different things. She looks for a lot of decor stuff, and I just was looking at clothes or other things. Well, I found this bag that had 3 cross-stitch kits for Christmas stockings. And I didn't even look them up. I knew they would sell, so I just grabbed them. And when I got home and I looked up the comps, there was a comp for $330 on one and $225 on another and $200 or something on another one. And I was like, I paid $3, like $1 per kit. So I listed them for what the comps were, and I got an offer for $300 on one of them pretty quickly. So I took it, and the lady that bought it in Florida, she happened to share with me that her son, she had made one just like it for her son in the 80s. And he was expecting their first child. And so he had asked her to make one that matched for the upcoming, grandchild. And she's like, I would never pay $300, but what do you do, when you get that request? You pay $300 for a cross-stitch kit. So that was very lucrative. But in the bag, I also found a cassette tape that said mother's funeral.
Oh no.
So we went back. Yeah, we went back the next day and took that back. And they had no idea that, that was down in the bag. And that bag was the original bag, I'm sure, that they bought the kits in, because I used to shop there. It had the receipt in it. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's probably been one of my best sales ever, was the kit, $1 into 300. And then the other ones, one sold for 200 and one sold for, I think, 90. It had been open and barely started. So so I made about $500 or $600 from $3.
$3 investment. And I love that story, because that's what motivates me to keep going with this business, is some of the emotional stories about why somebody bought something, and a priceless gift that baby will have for its whole life, knowing that it was Christmas stockings.
Yeah, it was one of those Busilla Christmas stocking cross stitch kits. And I used to cross stitch quite a bit. And so I knew what it was when I saw it.
Right. But that child will always have that matching stocking with the dad. That's worth more than $300 probably to them. But
yeah, to them.
I know the mother paid for it, but yeah, just having something like that is such a treasure, and you got to be the person that connected the mother with the product so she could do that for her grandbaby. I love stories like that.
Yeah. I do too. That was really thrilling to be able to do that. And I like to hear that back. I don't ask the questions of people, what are you going to do with that, even though you want to, but some of them are nice enough to share, thank you for selling this, and they'll tell you what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I love either it's feedback or a message that just, thank you so much for offering this. And then they tell the story of what it is and what it means to them or somebody else. And so I think Julie, who was on, that does the postcards, she used the phrase buying back your childhood. And buying memories. That's what's happening here, is people are buying memories. So when I really consciously made a shift to more vintage items, that's where I like to be. I'll always be a clothing seller because I just like it. But the vintage items are the ones that you get those stories, and it just reinforces that you're doing a good thing and we love what we do. And when everything ends on a happy note like that, there's enough bad news in the world. We don't need that. We need the happy stories.
Exactly.
So what were some of your other sales, either interesting or high dollar stuff?
Well, let's see. Last winter, there's a little local thrift store that I like to shop in, and they have like half price day on Thursdays, but there's always nice things, they'll say not half price. And so I was in a store and it wasn't half price day, and I came across some Filson shirts, men's shirts, and they were like XXL, and I knew what they were. And so did they, because they had them marked like $100 each. But when I looked them up, they're still selling for $200 or $300. So I decided to pay up, and I just got one of them. I got the buffalo check wool. I think it's called the Mackinac shirt.
So and buffalo plaid is the red and black, just for the listeners who don't know that. Right. And so I paid $100 for this shirt. And of course I'm sweating it going out the door thinking, oh my gosh, can I make my money back? But it sold fairly quickly on an offer for $300.
and I got good feedback from the person that purchased it, because they had been looking for the ones that are made in the USA. Apparently, I don't, maybe Filson has, they're not all made in the USA anymore. Kind of like Oshkosh, you look for the USA, made in USA made
Right.
clothing are better than the ones that are not. So this one was still a made in USA one. So that sold well. And I also had to go to the dentist a couple of weeks in a row to like replace a crown. And I happened to be in a Goodwill early in the week. And so after I finished at the dentist, I just popped in there and walked down the row of bags. So the first week I come across this bag, catches my eye, and it's a nylon blue and brown loud leopard print. It looks kind of like a lunch bag, but it has like the little leather feet on the bottom. So I thought, this has got to be something. And it was an MZ Wallace brand, and I had never heard of that. And I looked it up, and it floored me that was some kind of name brand that people collect. So I bought it, I think $2 or $3, and I sold that for, I think, $125. And the lady that purchased it shared with me that there's like an MZ Wallace Facebook group, because there's different size bags and different patterns. And then the next week I go in and do the same thing, and I see this canvas bag with a big brass buckle on the side kind of hanging out. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And then the closer I get, I see it says Filson on the buckle. I was like, oh, that's no brainer. Threw that in my cart, and it's like I had to go to the restroom. So I put clothes on top of it so nobody would see it, because I could tell this man was kind of coming behind me.
I do that too. I just get something
I have it.
Yeah, get something crappy and put on top of your good stuff, because sometimes you just have to use the restroom.
That's right. And that's why I like shopping at Goodwill, because, it's air conditioned and there is a restroom close by. And at this age, those are very important qualities to have.
Those have always been important qualities to me. It's like people are like, you should do more yard sales, and there's so many things to choose from everywhere I've ever lived. It's like you have to make your choices so it's time efficient, and it's like at the thrift store, what everything costs. It's organized. It's climate controlled. They have a nice restroom. I mean, they have a restroom.
Right.
So I just like that environment. And I've never left a thrift store empty-handed. Sometimes I've tried the garage sale thing, and you might drive around all Saturday morning and come back with one or two things. And I kick myself. I'm like, you could have gone to Goodwill for this amount of time and gotten 30 things. And that's what keeps me from doing more yard sales, I guess. But I feel like if I had somebody with me, it would be more fun. Like a driver. So I just can jump out and then come back. And it's like, maybe that's a business idea of like, sort of a yard sale Uber, we'll drive you around Saturday mornings. And so you don't have to worry about parking or, getting in and out of the car 100 times.
Right. We'll load your stuff. So I found this Filson bag, and I think I paid $5.99 for it, and got it home and listed it. And I paid attention to how they were taking the pictures of those things. And I sold it to someone in Colorado, I think, for $195.
You are really finding great stuff.
And that's what keeps me going, because just when you're about to be discouraged, you come across some other thing like that, and it just pumps your adrenaline back up and keeps you going.
Or something will sell, like you have a dry spell a day or two, and then all of a sudden something you've had for over a year or a really long time, just sells at full
Mhm.
price. Like, and you didn't do anything.
Mhm.
You didn't go back and end it and restart it. It's just been there. And I think it's just the right person found it. The right person wanted
Right.
it, needed it at that moment, and you got the sale. And this is kind of like gambling with intermittent reinforcement. You just never
Mhm.
know when that next payout's going to come. So you just keep,
Right.
compare it to a slot machine. You just keep putting stuff in, which is your listings. You just keep putting stuff in, and then the payout comes when it comes. But it's
That's
not
right.
really gambling, because you have to know what you're doing, and you're paying for the items and all that stuff. So, but some people
Well,
look
and
at, go
one
ahead.
of the things I'm finding is the stuff that I'm listing now. A lot more of it is selling quicker. So I feel like I'm being a better shopper,
Mm-hmm.
and makes me want to go through the stuff that I have in there for a couple of years, and just like reset and start over.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I haven't gotten to that point yet, because as soon as I think, okay, this is the week I'm going to do that, I'll sell something that's been sitting there for a year or two, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to get rid of it. But
Yeah, we
that
all have
time's
that
coming.
that conversation in our head of like, that was back when I didn't know better.
Mhm.
But this thing over here just sold, and I didn't know better then either. So it's like, do I
Right,
do I
right.
mess with it, or do I just leave it alone?
Yeah. I'll probably put it, try the promoted listings on a lot of the stuff that I've had longer, and see if I can get rid of them that way. But yeah, I need to churn and burn get some stuff out of here.
Well, you'll get to it. It doesn't seem like you have a shortage of work to do as far as listing and reevaluating. So anyway, we have been going for about an hour. So
Oh, yeah, we have.
I know that goes by fast. So the last question is advice. What kind of advice would you give to people just getting into this, or something that might help somebody else? Because you mentioned a few podcasts that helped you. So now it's time for you to pay it forward to somebody else.
Yeah, and I hope there's been something that has resonated with someone. But as far as advice goes, I would start maybe smaller. Don't think you have to go out and buy things. When look around and make sure you have your own stuff, or maybe even a parent or sibling, if you're trying to clear out their stuff, do that first, so you're not laying out any money to do it. If you're nervous about shipping things, sell stuff that are small and easy to ship, like clothing or things that are not going to break. And don't be afraid to try it. Just step on out and try it. And if you find you don't like it, then don't do it. But
Mm-hmm.
the fear of shipping kind of kept me from just jumping off and doing it for a while. And once I got past that, you ship your first 2 or 3 breakable things, and they get there okay, then you're off to the races. Pool noodles are where it's at, though, as far as protecting stuff and shipping. The pool noodles and
Mm-hmm.
the egg cartons,
And I
the
see those
styrofoam
behind
egg
you,
cartons.
that
I use
green
that quite
pool
a bit.
noodle and
Oh,
egg carton, obviously clean
yep.
egg, but those are great, whether they're
Yes.
paper, styrofoam, cardboard. I save mine and cut them up and
Right.
use all the time. And it's almost become a challenge of, how can I pack this and never have to buy any packing materials, like loads and loads of boxes and stuff. I just save what could be used for that. And I've never gotten any complaints. It's more like, oh, creative packaging, or wow, it got here intact, it didn't break. And because people do think you have to buy so much to do this business. And you really don't. Just pay attention to what's going on around you. And like you said, doing it is what is going to build your confidence. It's just like you can read everything in the world about how to swim, but until you jump in that pool and start and do it, you're not going to understand how it works. So definitely.
And I do think
and shipping is every new person's biggest fear. Even if they've worked in a shipping capacity somewhere, it's different when it's on you. It's not like you're working for the UPS store. This is on you. If it goes wrong, that's what kind of trips people up. But millions of sellers do it, and everybody can learn it, and it's not hard.
Right. And if you have something as simple as a food scale, so that you can weigh your small packages on that food scale, and you just put the information in your listing, and eBay is going to calculate. I do calculated shipping. eBay is going to calculate how much the shipping is. And if it's something that is outrageous, somebody that wants to buy it is probably going to ask you about it and check it. So I've had that happen before, but I don't have to get boxes. I have a friend that does a lot of Amazon, and she'll save me some of her boxes and the packing bubbles and stuff. The only thing I do keep on hand that I buy is bubble wrap.
Well, yeah, that's a necessity.
That's about it.
But sometimes you can even get that for free if you put the
if I
word
live in
out.
town, people post that on that freebie alert all the time. But I don't live close enough to go and snag it as much. So I'll keep it, but I still get bubble wrap and bubbles from friends, boxes, probably more than I need. I have a backlog of that.
That's a great name for a recycling business. Bubbles from friends. I like that.
Bubbles and boxes.
That's right. Okay. Well, I'm glad we finally connected, and it wasn't really the technology. It was just, we got our wires crossed. So, I'm so glad to meet you finally in person.
Well, I appreciate it. And thanks for being persistent in contacting me. And I have enjoyed it. And I really can't recommend the premium library enough, especially for people that are just beginning. It is a no-brainer to try out the just the free trial, and your videos to me are very simple and linear in thought, so that it's step by step by step by step, and it's much easier to follow that than I think a majority of other videos. So I commend you on that. I think you're doing a great job and have really found a good niche. And the BOLO books are great. I used to buy printing, so I appreciate the quality that those are created. And I noticed that. And I'm sure other people do too, but in the printing world, I notice it a lot.
Yeah, we went with the thicker paper because it's like a study book. You're going to be flipping through it a lot, and we didn't want it to come apart or, become damaged over time because of the cheap, almost see-through paper. So it's a nice, almost cardstock paper. So I appreciate that input. That means a lot. So, anyway, thanks again. And we will watch for you and your amazing sales on Facebook.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again, Tina, for taking the time to come on the podcast. And I really enjoyed meeting you after seeing you on the Facebook group and in the premium library all these years. I really love doing these interviews and getting to meet people face to face, at least virtually on Zoom. Okay, today's trivia question, because Tina mentioned it. What is buffalo plaid and why is it called that? Here are a few seconds to think it over. Buffalo plaid is the red and black plaid. Only red and black, no other colors. The big chunky squares that have now become synonymous with the Christmas season. No doubt you have seen this pattern on pretty much everything: clothing, sleepwear, jackets, sweaters, bed linens, table linens, even dishes, and all kinds of stuff. So here is the story. Although the name buffalo plaid might trick you into thinking it's an American invention, if you do a little digging, you'll find that the buffalo plaid is actually the MacGregor red and black pattern. In Scotland, the pattern is associated with the folk hero Rob Roy MacGregor, even though there is no evidence he ever wore this particular tartan. And the pattern there is often referred to simply as the Rob Roy. According to legend and the Scottish Tartan Authority, the pattern was brought over to the U.S. in the 1800s by Jock McCluskey, a supposed descendant of Rob Roy. Jock was quite a character who sympathized with the native people. He befriended folks from many tribes as he worked as a trader, offering finished goods for buffalo pelts and other items. According to stories, the Native Americans with whom he worked prized the heavy Scottish blankets in the MacGregor red and black, which they believed, or so the story goes, got its red color from a sorcerer's hex, a dye distilled from the spirit blood and ghostly souls of McCluskey's prey and enemies, and, as a result, was said to bring good luck in battle. Again, according to legend, the Native Americans also couldn't pronounce the Scottish Gaelic word for blanket, pladger, Pladger, and instead referred to the blankets as plaids. Eventually, the buffalo plaid made its way up to the northeast to the Woolwich Woolen Mill. In 1850, the company began producing buffalo plaid shirts, and they were an immediate hit. Supposedly, the name comes from the fact that the mill's designer at the time owned a herd of buffalo. And I've also read that during the buffalo days, there was a store owner who offered this plaid, and he named it buffalo plaid because all the people buying it were hunting buffalo. It's hard to say how much of the history of the buffalo plaid is true and how much is legend, but we can say for sure that the pattern is an iconic one that has withstood the test of time. And a side note, any sports team that has red and black wear this all the time because, hey, those colors go with the fan wear. Okay, next week my guest is Donna, who has 9 children, is a thrift store junkie, a seasoned eBay seller, and actually started on eBay because of a stranger she met in a thrift store. There are no coincidences in life, and this is one of those stories. Okay, that wraps up episode 112. Thank you for tuning in and coming back every week to meet other sellers who are out there in the trenches just like you. Have a happy week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!